You and the rest of the Phantom Troop were resting after fighting with a powerful gang. You were in your room doing your favorite hobby until a while you got bored and left your room to hang out with the others. As you left, you saw Cᴇʟsᴏ heading into his room. "Hey, Cᴇʟsᴏ," you greeted him with a smile. He looked at you for a brief moment, then continued walking and went into his room. You weren't offended by him, since he did that to everyone. You continued walking toward the main room where everybody was chatting with each other. You sat down in a chair, relaxing for a moment, in silence, watching the ceiling, while you pulled the bush far enough for him to walk in. As he went, you followed right after. You saw Shalnark standing there with an astonished face. He looked adorable, his eyes shining. He turned to you, his face still not processing what was in front of him. "So I'm guessing you like it," you said, followed by a small giggle. He nodded. What he saw was a place found a long time ago while running away from some men. You ran into the woods with 2 men running behind you. You were running away, and the 2 men were catching up, slowly but steadily. Suddenly, you had tripped. You closed your eyes and fell, feeling branches scrape you. You then opened your eyes, not feeling the branches anymore, and found yourself there, in that beautiful spot. You had looked around to see if they had seen you, or if they were still there, but you didn't see anybody. You looked at the trees, which they looked healthy. The water was clean and the grass was bright green. It looked like heaven. He smiled at you and then hugged you. You hugged him back. Then you broke the hug after a bit and looked at him. "Want to swim?" you offered. He nodded and you both just jumped in. You didn't care if your clothes got wet. You were laughing and joking around in the water. When you got out and headed back to your place, your clothes were still pretty much damp and wet, but you still went in like nothing happened. You both went upstairs to take a shower and change. As you reached the top, you bumped into Cᴇʟsᴏ. He did not look happy when he saw you together, but you were assuming it was because of your clothes. "Where have you been?" Cᴇʟsᴏ asked in anger. "Having some fun," you and Shalnark said at the same time. Then you asked, "Why?" He stood there in silence for a moment, then simply said, "Wyan, meet me in my room when you're cleaned up." He then left and went downstairs. Shalnark and you looked at each other, confused, then you started laughing really hard. You then came down and kept walking, still laughing a bit. Shalnark then joked, saying, "I wonder why he wants you in his room," he said in a teasing tone. "Shut up," you said while giggling. You got to your rooms and did your own thing. You got a towel and dressed, turned the shower on, and went in. Once you were done, you turned off the water and got out. You then changed into some shorts and a tank top. You stayed barefoot. As you walked toward Cᴇʟsᴏ's room, you bumped into someone. "How am I bumping into everybody today?" you thought, looking up at the person, seeing your best friend again, Shalnark. "Hey," Shalnark greeted. "Hi," you greet back. "Will you accompany me to Cᴇʟsᴏ's room?" you said playfully. "Sure," he said, and he linked arms, walking toward Cᴇʟsᴏ's room. You made it to Cᴇʟsᴏ's room, and you knocked on the door. No response. You knocked again and waited. Still no response. You turned the doorknob, but it was locked. So you turned around and walked away from the door, toward the stairs. You walked downstairs and toward the kitchen. You then noticed there was silence in the house, but not normal silence. It was the kind of silence where everyone was talking 1 minute, and then the next everybody was quiet for no reason. You looked around and saw nobody. Shalnark noticed you looking around and moved your arm to link your hands. You had forgotten your arms were still linked together, so you unlinked your arms. Even when you unlinked your arms, you felt as if your arms were still linked together. He was your best friend. You couldn't help but have feelings toward him. Nobody knew about your crush on him, though, since you could hide your feelings easily. He looked at you questioningly. Don't you feel like it's too quiet? You asked him. He stared at you for a few seconds. Then his mouth formed an "oh" shape in realization. That's what seemed off, he said, realizing. Yeah, but you then shrugged it off. You went to the fridge and took out what was needed to make a sandwich. Shalnark sat down and watched you. You were guessing he wanted one too, since he was watching you make a sandwich with hungry eyes while sitting down, already comfortable. When you finished making the sandwiches, you handed one to him. He took it happily. You know me so well, he said while grinning. You nodded and sat down next to Shalnark and started eating your sandwich. When you were done to the last bite, you felt a tense stare from Shalnark. You looked at him, and he was staring at your sandwich. You grinned and started moving the sandwich around. His eyes followed the small piece of sandwich. You giggled at him, then popped the piece into your mouth. He suddenly tackled you to the floor. You were about to say something, but then he kissed you. You kissed back. He then licked your bottom lip, asking for entrance. You complied. His tongue went into your mouth, exploring and leaving nothing untouched. You broke the kiss for air. You did that for a little piece of sandwich? You said teasingly. No, that was an excuse to kiss you, he said, and you blushed lightly. He got off of you and helped you up. He hugged you from behind, grabbing your waist, and said, I love you, YN. You smiled and leaned into him. I love you too. He grinned and led you toward the kitchen counter. Can you make me another sandwich?